Learning Literature with Purva. Today in this video, we are going to talk about T.S. Eliot's most influential poem, The Wasteland. Wasteland was published in 1922, and it was with the publication of Wasteland that T.S. Eliot became a leading light in British poetry. So why did T.S. Eliot write Wasteland? He wrote it after the First World War, when he saw corruption and degradation of human beings. So Wasteland is divided into 5 sections: the burial of the dead, the game of chess, the fire sermon, death by water, and what the thunder said. So it is a very important poem, whether you're pursuing your masters in English or whether you are preparing for ugcnet. This is one poem you really need to study well. In this video, we're going to talk about each section of Wasteland in detail. So please subscribe to my channel and watch the video till the end. So the first line of Wasteland is April is the cruelest month of the year. It completely reverses the myth that Christians believe that April is a very holy month, because generally Christians associate April with Easter and resurrection of Christ. So you can remember that Geoffrey Chaucer wrote in Canterbury Tales, April is the sweetest month of the year. So Eliot alludes to Canterbury Tales and writes April is the cruelest month of the year, and that's how the poem Wasteland begins. So Eliot is trying to show that from the age of Chaucer to the modern age, the kind of corruption and degradation in human beings that has occurred. So with this very first line, he tries to show that. So Wasteland is a series of fragmentary monologues by various figures. You can find various characters in Wasteland, and all of them are telling something to us. We can see so many incidents. So it is a series of fragmentary monologues, and T.S. Eliot is constantly referring to all the works that he likes. So there are allusions to Shakespeare's works, there are allusions to Thomas Middleton's play, and plenty of allusions which we'll come to later. So in Burial of the Dead, you can find plenty of characters such as Countess Mary, who feels free in the mountains. Then we have Son of Man, Ezekiel, the Jewish prophet who was sent to preach the word of God. Then we have Hyacinth Girl. Next we have Madame Sosostris, the famous clairvoyant, who warns her client to protect himself from death by water, which is the 4th section of Wasteland. So in the last paragraph of the Burial of the Dead, we see Eliot is calling London an unreal city. Now why London is called an unreal city? Because Eliot is saying a crowd of people mechanically going to work, they are so spiritually barren. They have no consciousness. Therefore, he is calling it an unreal city. And this unreal city need not be only London. It can be any place on earth where corruption, degradation, and spiritual barrenness can be seen. So in the last section of Burial of the Dead, last paragraph of Burial of the Dead, Eliot calls out, the speaker calls out to a person called Stetson, who was with him in a battle of Mali, but it is a reference to the First World War. And he asks him a very poignant question, which shows the futility of World War, the futility of any war. And he asks that the corpse that you planted in your garden, has it started blooming? Will it bloom next year? So what this line shows? This shows the utter futility of war. No one can gain anything in war. So that's what Eliot is trying to show in Burial of the Dead. Now let's look at the second section of the Wasteland, which is the game of chess. The name is taken from Thomas Middleton's play, The Game of Chess, written during Renaissance. And why did Eliot choose this title, The Game of Chess? Because according to Eliot, the relationship between man and woman in the modern world is like a game of chess. It is like the moves and counter moves in a game of chess where man and woman are trying to overcome each other. So in this section, Eliot gives us 2 contrasting scenes. In the first scene, we find an upper class woman sitting in her dressing room waiting for her lover. So Eliot gives a description of the room where she is sitting, and while doing so, he alludes to Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra, Virgil's Aeneid, and Ovid's Metamorphoses. So there is a painting of Philomela who was raped brutally by King Tereus in Ovid's Metamorphoses. and then she was transformed into a nightingale by the gods who took pity on her. So by referring to this incident, Eliot is trying to show the status of women. Women have always been victims in the male-dominated world. Then Eliot shifts to the scene and we see that the woman who is waiting is a seductress. So her lover joins her and then she starts talking to her lover, and it is a one-sided conversation. She is in a very nervous mood and she wants her lover to engage in a frivolous conversation just to entertain her. So we find that there is no connection between the man and the woman. The woman is talking on her own and the man is thinking about death. There is zero connection. In the next scene, we are taken to a pub of post-war London, where two low-class women are talking about their families and immediate status. So there is a character called Lil who is upset that her husband Albert will be coming home. Albert is a soldier who will be coming home after war. Her so-called friend tells her that why she's not taking care of her appearances and getting a pair of dentures, because if she's not able to entertain her husband, then Albert is going to look for pleasure elsewhere. The friend also rebukes Lil that how she looks so old and unattractive at the age of 31, to which Lil says that she is on abortion pills which are having a side effect on her body. The friend doesn't sympathize with Lil. So here we can see how shallow human connections, human friendships have become. So finally all the women in the pub leave. It's the closing time of the pub, and there Eliot uses the allusion of Hamlet. He uses the last scene of Ophelia, where Ophelia is saying goodbye to everyone before killing herself. The third section of the Wasteland is the Fire Sermon, and it is the longest section of the poem. The title is taken from Gautam Buddha's Fire Sermon, a sermon which he gave to his disciples. The first paragraph in this section shows us a picture of river Thames in autumn, and Eliot alludes to Edmund Spenser's poem Prothalamion, where Spenser said, "Sweet Thames, run softly till I end my song." And in the immediate next paragraph, we see a contrasting picture of river Thames, an ugly picture with slimy rats around its bank. This contrast is shown so that we can understand the degradation and corruption in the modern world. And in this context, Eliot alludes to the Fisher King myth and to Ferdinand of Tempest. Then we come across a very important character, Tiresias, a prophet of ancient Greece who foresees the future and through whose eyes we see an incident. At the time of sunset, sailors return to home, and a typist also returns home after her daily work, and she prepares dinner, and then her lover visits her, a clerk who is overconfident. And the clerk tries to arouse her by caressing her, but she is not at all responsive. Finally, he is irritated and he assaults her without any resistance from her side. Then he leaves mechanically. The typist does not even recognize that the clerk has left, and when she recognizes, she is glad that things are over, and she starts listening to music on gramophone. This incident is used by Eliot to produce a satiric effect, to show the shallowness, to show the frivolousness of relationships, to show there is no real emotion involved. Then Eliot talks about Queen Elizabeth I and her minister Earl of Leicester, who went on a boating excursion. By mentioning this incident, he also hints at the love affair between Queen Elizabeth I and Earl of Leicester. Finally, at the end of the section, the Fire Sermon, there is a reference to Saint Augustine. Both Buddha and Saint Augustine considered sensual temptation as burning fire. The fourth section, Death by Water, is a shorter section in the Wasteland. As warned and predicted by Madame Sosostris in the first section of the Wasteland, Phlebas the Phoenician has died by drowning. Eliot says that as Phlebas has already died, It is futile to think about the cry of the seagulls or the movement of the sea when he was dying. It is also futile to think about profit and loss, which were his everyday business when he was alive. By mentioning this incident, Eliot tells mankind to think of their own mortality. Eliot says that Phoebus was once handsome and tall, but he died by drowning. Similarly, mankind, whether Jew or Christian or belonging to any other religion, should think of their mortality so that they can live a meaningful life which is not spiritually barren. Finally, we come to the last and final section of the Wasteland, what the thunder said. The first paragraph of this section recalls the events from Judas' betrayal and Christ's arrest to the time of his crucifixion. So there are plenty of biblical allusions in this section. A thorough knowledge of Bible will really help you in understanding this section. Then the poet takes us to an arid, waterless rock region, a wasteland where there is no hope for life and regeneration. The God-forsaken land can only be transformed if there were water somewhere, but there is no water. The clouds are thundering, but they are rainless thunder. There is no hope for rain. Then the poet takes us to another scene. He thinks of the river Ganga and its land, India. As the lifeless leaves of the tree near the bank of river Ganga awaits rain, the clouds gather over the Himalayas and it thunders. And what the thunder said? The thunder said, Datta Dayadham Damyata. Datta means to give. Dayadham means to be compassionate. Damyata means to exercise self-control. It is a threefold advice given by the thunder or given by the gods, showing way for redemption. If one follows the threefold advice of giving to the needy, being compassionate, and exercising self-control, one can find peace even in this modern world. Then Eliot uses the allusion, London Bridge is falling down. Now why does Eliot say London Bridge is falling down? Because if human beings fail to follow the threefold advice of Datta Dayadham Damyata, then nothing can stop human beings from seeing the disintegration of civilization, the degradation of human beings. Nothing can save them. It is an apocalyptic vision where towers are falling down. Finally, the poem ends with the repetition of the Sanskrit word for peace, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. By saying these three words, Eliot longs for peace and enlightenment. It's a prayer that God save humanity, save this world. So that's it about Wasteland. I hope you liked the video. If you liked it, then please do subscribe, like and share with your friends. And don't forget to stay tuned to Learning Literature with Purba. I'll be back with a new video next week where I'll be discussing another work of literature. Thank you so much for watching.